So we are here to talk about SharePoint Framework, what is the landscape of SharePoint and Office 365 development we have. So just a brief about me, first of all. My name is Vipul Jain. I'm a Microsoft certified professional. I'm having 10 years of experience, you can say training, consulting, and development experience on SharePoint, Office 365, Power Apps, Flows, Nintex, and many more, including Azure. So I'm also a cloud platform certified professional, you can say Azure certified. Okay, so let's talk about SharePoint Framework. So whenever I'm asked to develop an application for Office 365 or SharePoint precisely, the first question which I like to ask is, does my application work in Office 365? Or in other words, you can say that, does it become part of the user interface? It has good, you can say, look and feel, and it is a part of the product as it is shipped from Microsoft. Okay. Or the other question is that, does my application work with Office 365? So an example of the application you know very well inside Office 365 could be creating web parts. We all know. Now every SharePoint and Office 365 developer or even business user now know what web parts are. And here we will talk about specifically the client-side web parts. So SharePoint Framework, or also abbreviated as SPFX, it works in Office 365 and SharePoint on-premise versions, and it allows you to write client-side web parts. But the correct word, which I've already used, please don't say it as web parts. These are client-side web parts because they are built using TypeScript and they use modern technologies, just like npm-based development, gulp, Yeoman, TypeScript, and so on. Okay, so this is the agenda for today talk. I'll be talking about node-based development, how to use and why to use Webpack, what is Yeoman, and then we will see a simple Hello World web part using the Yeoman SharePoint generator, and we will create a SharePoint framework client-side web part. Cool. So this is a brief SharePoint history when it started in 2001 with the code name Tahoe, where it was completely ASP-based. Then it moved to 2003, where the complete development was on ASP.NET and Camel queries and web parts came into picture. Then Microsoft launched the product with the name MOS 2007, where there were shared services and publishing features got introduced. Then I will say the most stable version till today is SharePoint Server 2010, which I like the most, and where the Microsoft acquired, the fast acquisition was done in search functionality, and then SharePoint Server 2013, 2016, and the remaining you know very well, SharePoint Server 2019 as well. So in SharePoint Server 2016, SPFX and this Office Fabric kind of modern technologies or modern SharePoint web development got started. So this is again a brief history of SharePoint development. So at this point, you must be thinking the obvious question is that why SharePoint framework? So we have so many ways of developing for SharePoint. Why do I need yet another way to develop for SharePoint? So this is on your screen. You can see that these are the different types of solutions which you can create and which you might have developed across your SharePoint journey. So it started with farm solutions where we used to have WSPs, the full trust code, and it runs in a farm environment. And then came the sandbox solution where your code is defined in a particular scope or in a particular site collection or the sandbox. Okay, so but I will not say that sandbox solution was not a good idea. Okay, I would not recommend even writing sandbox solution either on-premise or in cloud. They are deprecated. So next came the add-in model or the app model, you can say. The SharePoint, Microsoft introduced add-in model or the app model in 2013, SharePoint Server 2013. But again, the problem was that your web part was running in a particular iframe. Okay. Then came the script injection where we created the content editor web parts or the script editor web parts. And we used a lot and heavily the JS files, JavaScript files, writing jQueries and using SharePoint Designer. Then we have one more capability called no script app capability. To be fair, it's a very disability, I will say. And then came the SharePoint framework arena or SharePoint framework era of doing a modern development using modern dev tool chain. So these are some of the principles on which SharePoint modern development is based on. These I will say that SharePoint extensibility principle to provide the application development frameworks which align different parties, integrates different parties. You can very well use Microsoft Graph in your SharePoint framework solution. Okay, so if I talk about SharePoint framework, it's a very lightweight development. I will say it uses modern technologies and it is responsive, and I will say it is very fast in nature. At the same time, when I say it is responsive, you can open your SharePoint framework client-side web parts on mobile or on any devices you want. So for SharePoint framework, I will say that it works in Office 365. It allows you to write client-side web part and uses modern technologies. So when we talk about SPFX, let's talk about a modern page as compared to the classic pages which we have. So you can create modern pages in Office 365 by going to site pages and you create a modern page. So these are the pages which are rendered on the client side. They are very responsive and fast in nature. And all the web parts which you can add on that are all SPFX web parts, SharePoint Framework web parts. So these are some of the details related to the modern site pages. On the right of the screen, you can see that the people have started using it and have added multiple, you can say, modern client-side web parts on it. Okay, now what are the tools and libraries? The very important question and the first step towards the modern development. So you have to set up your environment. You have to follow these steps. There are some tools which needs to be installed and deployed on your machine. The first and foremost is the Node.js and the developer editor. The developer editor, the most famous one you can use, that is Visual Studio Code. But before that, you have to install the Node.js. Then you have to install the Yeoman generator and gulp. And then we can start with Yeoman SharePoint generator to create our first SPFX Hello World web part. Okay, so let's talk about these tool chain very quickly, that what are the different tool chain. For build process and tooling, we have Yeoman, Gulp and NPM along with the TypeScript, which we can use. Any JavaScript framework you can use with SPFX. I will say that SPFX is framework agnostic. So when I say framework agnostic, it means that it is not dependent on particular framework. You can use React, you can use Angular, you can use Ember, Knockout, anything. Now the code editors, as I mentioned, that the very well famous, you can use, famous one is Visual Studio Code, which I usually use it for my development purposes. But at the same time, you can use Atom or you can use Sublime if you want to use. So there is no problem at all. Now SPFX tooling, we were talking about the SPFX tooling. Okay, we are talking about the skills and tools which you will need to, probably to follow along with me, so that you can see that how we are creating the SPFX projects or web parts. So first one is the NPM. NPM stands for Node Package Manager. It is one of the packages which is required with the node-based projects, you can say. So it installs various modules and dependencies which are required in your project. The another one is Yeoman. I will explain later on, and I will show you the demo that Yeoman is a kind of web part generator. So what Yeoman do is that instead of creating different files individually in your project, Yeoman generator for SharePoint or for any other application, let's say Electron generator or SharePoint generator, it builds out the project structure completely for you. But Yeoman relies on NPM and gulp. Please remember that it relies on NPM and gulp. So NPM and gulp needs to be installed on your machine beforehand. You want to use Yeoman commands. The other one is the editor. I talked about the Visual Studio Code. It can be used for working with client-side web parts, but there is no restriction. You can use the other one like Atom or Sublime. So the other one, TypeScript. So you need to know the TypeScript concepts because it's a strongly typed language. There are annotations in it and it supports writing classes and interfaces. So majorly you will see the TypeScript code in SPFX web parts, and you are very much required to learn these concepts. The next one I will be talking about the gulp. Now what is gulp? Gulp is used for just to automate the SPFX development, and I will say that it works like a task runner. That's it. So gulp has different tasks with it. So I will say gulp clean, I can say gulp serve. So all these are different tasks which gulp provides. It is just doing a task runner kind of thing to handle our build process. The other thing is SharePoint Workbench. So there are two types of workbench in SharePoint Framework, where you can test your web parts. One is the local workbench. Another is the SharePoint Workbench. I will be talking about this just now after this. So this is a comparison. You guys would be working previously on the server side development using .NET framework and C#, and now we are talking about the modern web development. So what is the comparison outgoing here? So earlier we used to have IS Express to run our packages. Here I have Node. The Nugget packages has become the npm packages. For the build process, earlier we used to have MS build, and now I'm using gulp. For writing the code, we used to have C# as the language. Now I'm writing it in TypeScript. Okay, so this is the different tool chain comparison you can say between the server side and the modern web development, that is client side. Okay, now the most important part, install the development tools. So the first thing first you have to install the Node.js. Okay, so let's go to this website, which is a Node.js website, official website, which says https://nodejs.org-en. So the most important thing is that the latest version, that is the LTS version, is 10.15, and the current version is 12.3.1, as you can see on the screen. So LTS stands for long-term support version. Okay. Now, since we are working with SPFX, so we should know that on which version of SPFX we are, what version of SPFX we are talking about, and what version of Node will it support. It's very, very important. So by mistake, if you install this version, the current version, which I'm showing on the screen, that is 12.3.1, then your SPFX web parts are not going to work. If I install this LTS version, that is 10.15.3, your SPFX web parts are definitely going to work. Now, how and on what basis I'm saying this? So let me walk you through a site, an official site, that is github.com SharePoint spdevs.wiki. This is an official site where you can see all release notes, all announcements related to SharePoint framework. Okay, if I scroll over here, so you see these are the different release notes till here, which is available for SharePoint framework. So you can see we are using the SharePoint framework version 1.8. I think someone has unmuted. I request, can you please mute yourself? There's a disturbance between the training. Okay, no problem. So I was talking about the release notes. So the version which we are using, please note that we are using 1.8.2 SPFX version. And if you want to go to the release notes, these are the release notes of SharePoint Framework 1.8.2. Now there are two important things. I think someone has unmuted. Ashish? There is a lot of background noise I can hear. You guys can hear the background noise?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, even I can hear.
Okay, so I request everyone to go on mute while I'm speaking, and then we can have a Q&A session at the end.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Cool. So I was talking about the latest version of SPFX, and on the screen you can see that I'm talking about SharePoint Framework 1.8.2, released in May 2019. Okay. So what is the important fix which the Microsoft team has made in this version? Just to let you know that, can you see over here that support for Node.js 10, Node 8 is still supported, but it will be deprecated soon. So what it suggests to us is that please install either the 10th version of Node.js, or you can work on 8th version of Node.js. That is 8 point something something or 10 point something something. But very soon the 8th version will also get deprecated. So I will suggest you install the LTS version 10.15.3, and your SPFX web parts will definitely going to work. Okay. Another important site which I want to share with you is npm-js.com. Again, this is a very important site to search for the different packages available out there for doing the node-based development. Okay, so if I search for a particular package, let's say I want to search for jQuery, so I have the jQuery packages available through which I can perform the DOM operations. Likewise, I can search for movement.js if I want to play around with dates kind of thing, and I can search for jQuery UI. So any kind of library, all the packages are available over this site, and you can search for those packages. It's a very good site which I refer. So I talked about Node.js official site from where you can install the Node.js. As of now on my machine, I'm using a Windows machine, a Windows laptop having Windows 10 installed. So Node.js is installed. The 8th version of Node.js is installed on my machine. Okay, so we talked about the release notes and everything. So let's come back to the PPT now. Cool. So you have to install the Node.js, and then you have to do the installation of npm, and -g here stands for globally. So you are installing it globally in your operating system. Please remember, it will not affect any of your registry entries. It is not making any entry in your registry. Okay. So as it is written on the slide itself, install Node.js long-term support version only. Okay. Don't go with the current version. It's not going to work. Okay, next, you have to install the Yeoman and gulp. So for using the Yeoman, the npm and gulp needs to be installed, and the command to install those is npm install -g yo gulp. -g stands for globally, yo is Yeoman, and gulp is for gulp. So this is the command which you need to write in your Node.js command prompt or any kind of command prompt, just like Commander, if you are using. And you have to write this command to install Yeoman and gulp beforehand if you want to use SPFX web parts. And then what we have to do is that we have to install the Yeoman SharePoint generator with the command npm install -g @Microsoft/generator SharePoint. So what this command will do, that it will help you quickly create a SharePoint client-side solution project with all the tool chains and the project structure specifically. Once you run this command, okay, so you have to have a project or a solution structure in your system. npm.js, I've already talked about that you can install the TypeScript dependencies also using the command npm install TypeScript --save -dev. Okay, so now the scaffolding process. The scaffolding tool means creating the project dependencies or the node modules dependencies on your machine. So you can use the command yo @Microsoft/SharePoint, which I'm going to show you now while creating a sample hello world web part for SPFX. For running the SPFX web parts, since I talked about gulp, gulp is just, you can say, a task runner, nothing else. It is just a task runner. So there is a task with the name called serve. So you can write gulp serve and your SPFX web part will going to work. So that's all about theory parts. Now let's talk about some practical. Do some practical so that you can understand and learn what I'm talking about. Cool. So I am going to show you an npm based project, a very simple project, because Node comes with a bunch of modules that allow you to interact with things like file system, make HTTP calls. Okay. But as I showed you that there is another site called npm.js, which is a Node registry where there are a lot of Node packages people have built. Okay. So let's open the Node.js command prompt. I'm opening the Node.js command prompt. Since Node.js is already installed on my machine, and I'm going to show you that whether Node is installed or not on my machine. So I will just say Node, and it is giving me this countersign, which indicates that yes, Node is installed on my machine. I have pressed Ctrl+C and I'm just writing .exit. Okay. I will suggest you all that you go along with me, follow along with me, whatever code I'm writing on the screen, so that you will learn a lot that what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. Please remember, npm stands for Node Package Manager. And as I told you that modules can be installed globally by using the -g. Okay. So I told you that when you install them globally, you can just run them from command or any DOS program. They are not making anything in your registry. Any registry entry is not getting created. Okay, so let's check the Node version on my machine. Cool. So it is saying that 8.12.0 version is installed on my machine. I told you that SPFX web parts can work either with the 8 version or with the 10 version. Rest on any other version, they are not going to work. So on my machine, it's confirmed that Node 8 version is installed. Let's check the npm version. I will say the command npm-v. Okay, that is also correct. The version is 6.9.0. Great. So what I'm going to do is that we all know that any node-based project, you please remember, any node-based project starts with package.json. It always starts with package.json. So I'm creating a directory first of all. So I'm saying mkdir new proj. Cool. And I will go into this directory, new proj. Great. So I have just created a folder structure, you can say, with the name new proj. And I'm going to write a command. Okay, I'm going to write npm init -- yes, and I will press enter. So what it's going to do is that it's going to ask me, first of all, when I'm going to hit enter, if I don't press write yes, it's going to ask me a very bunch of questions. So if I don't write yes, suppose what I'm saying is if I don't press yes, so it's going to ask me a very bunch of questions. So with yes, -- yes, I just answer default yes to all of those questions. And it basically wrote out a package.json file for me. Now, what is this package.json is very, very important to understand. Okay. So I will say that package.json, you can see on the screen, it has wrote a file for me, package.json. So package.json is the central file for all node-based projects. You can think of it as an introduction of the project. Okay, so it is informing Node, hey, what are my dependencies? What are my dev dependencies? So what are the things I need to do at the dev time? What are the scripts I depend on? So you can say it's a general introduction which tells me what's my name, what's the project name, what's the project description, or what's the project version I'm using, and so on. Okay, so all these kinds of things are documented in package.json. So let me go ahead and open this in VS Code, that is Visual Studio Code. So for that, I will write code space dot enter, and I will press enter. Please remember that you have to give a space between the dot and the code. So this is going to open the package.json in Visual Studio Code. Okay. So let's open this package.json. Cool. So it has opened. So as I told you that it suggests me the name, version, description, and so on for my node-based project. It is just kind of an introduction. Okay. So basically what I'm going to do is that I'm going to play around with dates, because I want to use a library that somebody else has written. I have not written that. Somebody else has written, which is called movement.js, that I can only leverage. So I can simply add movement into my project. Okay. So I come to this package.json, and let's say I write some dependencies, for example. Okay. And I want to write some dependencies over here. And for the dependency, I want to write movement. And now you see over here, it is giving me 3 options. I just wrote a dependency called movement because I want to use movement.js in my file. And when I press Ctrl plus space and enter, it actually querying the npm registry, or you can say any private registry. Okay. And which is set up in your profile, which is movement.js. And what version we want, it is asking. So this is the latest version, then the caret sign and the tilde sign. I can use any version. Generally, I go ahead with the second one, that is the caret version. Okay, because there are 3 ways to specify a version. If I talk about this top one, the top one that you are looking is get the version and nothing else. Okay, and the second one is, you can say, the most recent version. So I generally go ahead with this caret sign. But for this demo, as of now, I don't want to add this dependency like this. Okay, it was just to tell you that how we can add the dependencies in package.json, right? So I'm going to install, first of all, movement. So movement as a dependency or as a library in my project. So I will write the command npm-install movement -- save. So what it will do is that it is going to save or install the movement.js in my project. Okay. So let's see. Okay. So now you see here node modules has been created automatically. The node modules folder has already automatically been created when I ran the command npm-install movement -- save. You see this. So this node module will have the movement.js in it. So let's check it out. You see here a movement folder. There is a movement folder, right? In this movement folder, okay, I have the different folder, and one of the file is movement.js, which I want to use in my project. Okay, so let's create a file in my solution. So for creating a file, you have to write the command copy null index.js. Cool. Now you see one file has been copied. It is saying, now I refresh it, and you see a index.js file has been created. It's a blank file which is being created. Okay. So a blank file has been created. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to write some code with respect to movement. I want to use the movement.js. So I will write here and I will say where. No, I don't want this. Okay. So I will write here. I want to play around with movement. So I will write movement where movement equal to require. I'm saying this that I want to use movement in my code. Okay. Cool. So I'm just saying the compiler, TSC compiler, TypeScript compiler, that I want to use the movement library in my code. As simple as that. Okay. So I want to console.log. Very simple thing I'm using, a very simple node-based project we are developing over here. So I'm writing in the console.log movement.format. Okay, I want to format the date. And I will write MMM, let's say I want in a particular format. So DDD YYY, comma hour, I want in minute, and let's say second, and AM/PM. That's it. Okay, so what we have done here is that we have created a index.js file where I'm writing a command, a code to call the movement.js, and I want to display something. Okay, now how to run this file? I want to run this file. So the way to run this file is if you go over here and write, for example, node and index.js. Cool, the project has run. It is giving me the current date and time. So the current date is May 26, 2019, and the time is 9:4:52 p.m. So that is how you can use the, or leverage. Leverage is the right word, not to use. So you can leverage the other libraries in your project. So I have just leveraged a library called movement.js, and it is giving me the expected output. That is the current date and time stamp. Okay. Now, what is the other way to run it? There is one more way to run this file. Okay. So let's go ahead and go to package.json. So you see here a script kind of thing. I can write as many scripts I want. I can write as many scripts I want. So what I will do, I will add one more script. The script, there are predefined script called start. Okay, in node-based development. And I want to say node index.js. Okay, so this is just another way, and I'm just saving the file. This is just another way that instead of running the command node index.js, now I will write npm start. Cool, it is giving me the same output. You see here, it is giving me the same output, right? So when I say that it is giving me the same output, it means that I am able to run this package.json, and the code I have written, the business logic I have written in index.json. So there is another way to run it. What is another way to run it? Just in the scripts, I have written a predefined script called start and gave it a value node index.js, and then I'm saying npm start. So that is how it's going to work. So that is about the node-based project. Okay. Now I'll talk about something Webpack. Now what is Webpack and why we need it? So the first question which comes in mind, that I have this index.js which is running. That's good. I have package.json, node modules, and all these kinds of files over here in my solution, which I have created from scratch. Okay. But the question is, do I ship this whole node module folder to my customer? Obviously not. Because if I give this node modules folder to my customer, it will have so many files, so many junk files or junk dependencies, which my customer obviously won't like. So the question is, do I give only this index.js to my customer? Again, this is not going to be possible. The reason being, index.js is referring or leveraging another library, another third-party library, which is movement.js. So neither you can give a lone index.js or node modules.js or a complete solution like this to your customer. Okay, so what is this solution? How to ship the code? So that's why SharePoint Framework uses Webpack. It treats Webpack like a black box, you can say. And I will say that you don't have to be really expert in Webpack. Don't think like that. Just understand the purpose of Webpack, which is at runtime, it will help you to load the appropriate module. That's it. Nothing else. So what I'm saying is that we want to bundle our code. Okay. But we want to bundle the code into modules and load this module exactly when I ask you to do that. Okay. So another purpose of Webpack is that Webpack allow you to bundle everything. When I say bundle literally everything, I mean you can bundle CSS, you can bundle JavaScript, images, even the things which are coming from internet, like CSS or styling, style sheet, something like that. So Webpack has the capability to bundle all those and becomes the part of your build process and so on and so forth. So that is the main use of Webpack. Okay. Now, if I talk about Yeoman, why Yeoman is required, why you need a Yeoman, right? So Yeoman, as I told you that I have this node-based project, but by the time my code will become long, it will definitely going to become complicated. So I will have many files over here. So this will become definitely, to create all these files for me becomes very much complicated. Because let's say I have this file index.js. Okay, it has had dependency, only one dependency, movement.js, and it is working fine. But by the time my code will increase or solution will increase, there will be a lot of dependencies, lot of complicated scripts would be there. So it is always nice that I have some equivalent as a Yeoman generator or SharePoint Framework generator, to be precise, which allows me to create the complete solution for me by writing just one command, that is yo@Microsoft/SharePoint. So that is the whole purpose of Yeoman. Okay, so I think I can conclude over here. So if you have any questions, first of all, thank you very much for being with me. And if you have any questions, please ask.